everybody, and welcome to sayreportjr, a podcast you should be listening to, subscribe to, and downloading every single week. I tried to do that.
Do Johnny Carson.
No,
or some,
no,
or
not
like
even
something.
I tried to do like an old-timey dude, like an
Like,
old-timey person.
This is old-timey radio. Welcome.
Dude, what in tarnation is a Say Report Junior?
That's Yosemite Sam. I don't know what that is.
I don't know
I was
what
thinking
voices
more like
are.
Adam West. I was thinking more like Adam West speaking through the toilet paper tube.
Oh my god. Anyways, so this is a podcast. I've already said that. I'm one of your hosts, Dale Decker.
I'm the other host, Zach Jarwick.
Woo-hoo!
Dale.
Oh god.
Dale.
Oh god.
Dale.
Zach.
Dale.
Zach. I swear to God.
I'm a weak
Hold
man,
on.
Dale.
Hold on.
I don't
Okay.
know. No, whatever you're about to guess, it's wrong. So don't
Okay.
even worry.
All right, you're a weak man.
So, you know how I've talked to you. I may have said this on the podcast last week. I don't know. I've definitely talked to you in real life about this. There's a big old Twin Peaks box set coming out.
Yeah. We've talked about it.
$170-ish after tax
Yep.
and everything.
Yep.
Comes out in December.
Mm-hmm.
One of 25,000 made, and because Amazon is freaking Amazon, they're not going to charge me for it till they ship it, which is good.
That's good.
Because if for some reason I'm 25,001 and they can't send me one, it's nice that they didn't take my money.
Yeah.
But also, I'd rather they take my money and guarantee that I'm $24,999. Like, to be totally honest, I'd rather they
I
did
hear
that.
you. I actually have a story about that, maybe. I don't know. Continue.
But so I've been listening to my rewatch podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I got, I finally hit when they were all talking about season 3, the one that came out 2 years ago. We just recently reached the 2-year anniversary of when that season ended. And I
Yeah.
got really, really, really needful to watch that season again.
Okay.
So I may have gone to YouTube. And I may have bought that season for $40 after already definitely getting it 2 months from now.
My God.
Just so I can watch it now again, legitimately, and then also rewatch it again whenever I get to season 3, which will probably be like January-ish of next year. So I may have, before this podcast, been definitely watched the first episode, watched like the first 5 minutes of the second episode, and I really want to be done recording so I can go back and finish that episode now because my brain is melting from all of the Twin Peaks thinking that my brain has been doing. I'm a broken man, Dale.
Yeah, but I just. Oh my God. So, like, do you own it? Hold on.
Yes,
Do you...
I own it on YouTube.
Okay.
Specifically season 3. I own season 3, The Return, the special event series, whatever version title you want to give it. I own that. I can access the other 2 seasons through like both Netflix and I think Amazon Prime, but I really wanted to rewatch that 3rd season
Right now.
again.
I mean, I get it. It's just super funny.
So
It's
so essentially I have spent what was originally advertised as like, oh, first day special offer $140. I waited 3 days, and so like that $140 offer went off the table, and it was like, actually it's $159.99 plus tax. Okay, so it's $166. Sure, I'm still gonna put my money down and guarantee that, even though technically through an Amazon pre-order it's not a guarantee. So who knows what happens in December?
Well, at least now you have it. Now you can watch it.
So now I can guarantee at least I have that 3rd season, right? It's
Yeah.
like I definitely have access to the 3 seasons of Twin Peaks, and if I want to watch the movie, it's like a $3 rental at Amazon. Like, I've got that option.
Oh my God.
That
That's
movie's
great.
important. It gives you very important detail. It's an essential part of the process. And what I have not seen yet
Ow.
in all of this is the 2 hours of deleted scenes from that movie that I haven't watched yet. It's a
Oh my
2.5 hour movie with 2 hours of deleted scenes. Dale,
Yeah.
David Lynch
Wow.
is insane.
That's incredible.
I love him, but he's nuts.
That's incredible. That's so funny. I
This also kicked off like a weird thing where I was like, I'm gonna watch all of the David Lynch movies because really, Firewalk with Me, the Twin Peaks movie, is the only David Lynch movie I'd seen. So I was like, what if I start from the beginning? And I watched Eraserhead, very good, enjoyed that.
Yep.
Started the Elephant Man, and I'm like slogging through it. I don't know why. It's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
I've liked it as I've sat down and watched it, but also after 20 minutes, I'm like, I need to do something else that isn't watch this movie right now.
Jesus.
So
Yeah, I've never
next is
seen
Dude.
Elephant
We'll
Man.
see what happens when I get to that. But
Yeah. I've never seen
But
Elephant Man.
Eraserhead, very good. I watched that. It took me 2 nights to watch that just because like I started watching it at 10 o'clock one night.
Oh, yeah.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
So like that's not a movie you should watch when you're tired because
No.
your brain will never forgive you.
Yeah.
So
No. I really like Eraserhead. It's a bizarre movie, but I really, really like it.
yeah. Bizarre is like that was literally the only descriptor I ever had going into that movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's that weird David Lynch movie that people talk about sometimes. I knew nothing about that movie going in and watching it. I don't know if I know anything about that movie after watching it.
Basically all you need to take from it is it's the like this is what I've heard and it makes sense when I think about Eraserhead, but it's basically all of the fears of becoming a father.
That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah. So cuz you have the baby scene and the like weird baby scene, and then you have all of the like dinner scenes and all of that. So it's like all of that anxiety. It's about like, to me and what I've heard, like actually in like discussions and whatnot, is that it's basically like the anxiety of a relationship and then turning that into like a fatherhood.
And like
scenario.
how your life, you have to give up certain aspects of your life to be a father.
Yeah,
all this other stuff. Yeah.
Well, or how you have to adapt. I wouldn't say give up, but like, because
yes,
you
you're
shouldn't
right.
have
I
to.
think that you should take out of that as adapt. I think that he specifically feels like he is giving up things. If the weird dream where he loses his head means anything,
yeah, exactly.
It is that he fears he is losing.
Yeah, but like that baby.
I had no idea, by the way. I had no idea what to expect when that dream started. I was like, oh, his head popped. Oh, his head popped off.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, there's that dancing chicken scene that
Also,
happens.
Yeah, I mean,
and like that is totally about like it's like meeting the family of your significant other.
I've seen episode 2, which is kind of episode 3 of Twin Peaks. I've seen weird things.
Oh, have you, Zach? Have you?
Believe me. I've seen it. I've listened to 3 different podcasts break it down. I've watched it again.
Have you seen a little show called Twin Peaks? I would have never guessed.
That's great. Here's the best thing about that. That weirdness doesn't actually start until you're already 4 hours invested into that first season. Fucking love it. Anyway.
But no, like that's like, and I didn't really get any of that stuff until after, like during discussion and whatnot. But like, I still got something out of the movie. Like, I still got that there was, shit going down. It was just fun to watch.
Baby Muppet for a child, and I was like, "What am I watching?"
The best.
I wasn't expecting this.
My favorite thing. So I had to watch that show for a digital. That show. I had to watch that movie for a digital audio course, right, in school. And at the end of the course, we had to do a shot for shot. Project where
I was gonna say remake. The whole class sat down and remade this weird movie.
No, we had to do a scene. We had to do a shot for shot of a scene from one of the like movies that we had watched during the semester. It might have been like between a certain amounts. I did a scene from The Conversation, which I don't know if you've ever seen The Conversation.
I have seen The Conversation.
Oh, Zach!
That's a movie I need to rewatch because when I watched it, I was shitty, and I need to because that was that 8 o'clock film class where I slept through half the movies. And The Conversation I remember like 3/4 of, and I really want to sit down and watch it again because Gene Hackman plays the saxophone. Everybody, it's a good movie.
Listen, I would watch that movie 100 times more. I fucking love The Conversation.
Here's the thing: when we were introduced to The Conversation, what we were told by the professor was they wanted Coppola to make Godfather 2, and he was like, well, I want to make this movie first, so give me the money for that, and I'll make Godfather 2. And my mind immediately went to, oh, okay, so I don't need to care about this movie because Godfather 2 is clearly the more important film.
Yeah.
I was wrong, by the way.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, I freaking love Godfather 2, but you've never seen it, so...
No. There's a point in time, like, so by the end of this class, here's the thing. By the end of I think it's the same exact class, we started talking about, we got into an actual conversation about like film directors
Yep.
and like the like art versus making shit for money, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the end of that class, was when we all had the revelation that J.J. Abrams, because this is like right after Super 8 had come out, so
Mhm.
we still thought J.J. Abrams. Well, I mean, I still like J.J. Abrams, but also J.J. Abrams just likes money. But this is a time when we all thought that J.J. Abrams was going to be the next Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
He's fine, but but we all realized that he had written Gone. He wrote Gone Fishing with Danny Glover and Joe Pesci. A complete bullshit movie that never should exist. But J.J. Abrams definitely needed the money and needed to get his foot in the door. And so he definitely sat down and was like, I'll fucking write Gone Fishing. Sure, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
And then he got to make like Cloverfield and Super 8 after that.
Yeah.
So like that was
But
the year we all kind of went, oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes it's not about
yeah.
like the whole sellout thing. Sometimes you just have to sit down and make some money, and then you can make the
Mhm.
movies you want to make, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that was a thing where I was like, I need to go back and watch the conversation now that I'm not a jackass.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I just was so into it, and I love Gene Hackman. Like I love, and yes, the saxophone is the best. And
As an alto sax like marching band player,
I love
I was like, oh my god, he's playing a
I
saxophone.
love saxophone. But yeah, so I did that scene, and I did the dream sequence. I don't know if that means anything. Yeah, okay.
The fob, where he's like walking around the
Yep.
park.
So I did that at Roger Williams Zoo, and that was a fun time. But a bunch of people did the baby scene from Eraserhead and the chicken scene from Eraserhead.
So here's the thing. I definitely know what you mean by the chicken scene. There's a few baby scenes in that movie when you really come down to it.
Okay,
Which
so
baby scene?
the only one that I really remember is because people did it. The one where he unwraps it.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The second you started talking, I was like, oh, I bet she means the part
Yep.
where like the fucking vinegar and baking soda explosion happens.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh my god, that scene, Dale.
watching a bunch of students do that scene and the different takes were just like, this, what the hell is going on here, guys?
Man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how they did it, let alone trying to watch students recreate it. Like, I can't imagine.
Are you kidding me? Watching my recreation of the conversation scene was kind of painful. Like,
Sure. I took a acting class. Acting 101. Theater 101? Sure.
mhm.
Where they made me go up and do like a 3-man scene. And the one criticism I still remember from that is when someone was like, every single one of you would not stop shuffling back and forth
Oh
from
my
one side of the stage to the
God.
other with
That's so
every
funny.
line.
That's so funny.
So like, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny. We could go down that rabbit hole another time.
There's also, I mean, there's no video. This was before YouTube, so maybe I'm assuming video of this exists, but does not exist on the internet, which is great. 8th grade talent show.
Oh my god. Wait, is this where you dressed as?
Yes. So 8th grade talent show.
You told the story. I love it.
I was in. Yes. No. This was one of our first episodes.
Yeah.
Yes. When I was like, well, did I tell you that it was the smart people gifted class of people that did this? Whereas
I
like
don't
this is
remember
like
that.
this was like, oh, you're all what did they call it? Like, I want to say special gifted, but that sounds ridiculous. But it was something like that, where it's like, oh, we're gonna like put you all off in like what's essentially a broom closet, and we're gonna talk about like smarter things and more like high-minded, gifted things than what your classes are talking about, but really well used as an excuse to like bullshit off because somehow we had convinced people we were talented in some way.
Oh my god.
But yeah, we did Nothing Like a Dame from South Pacific, and I definitely danced in a grass skirt and coconut bra.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You told. Yeah. That's such a good story.
So,
Oh, it's so good. Oh man.
uh,
God. But yeah.
but yeah, so my brain doesn't exist anymore.
I hear you.
It's been between Control
Yeah.
and Twin Peaks, and just like I can't not think about the universe as like the Matrix We
The
just talked about The
Matrix.
Matrix with Sejin and Devin on a very special episode, has that come out yet? That's come out, yeah. So I can talk about it. So that's come out. You should all go look that up on the Say Report feed. That's a very special episode for this 2 month period
It did
where we
come
talked
out.
about The Matrix. I think so. I think
Oh.
it definitely, yeah, it definitely came out. So like I can't express how much I've been thinking about how little reality matters, Dale. Like,
Wow,
uh,
that's fun
I
for
don't know
you.
how to look at time anymore.
There's
Clocks mean nothing to me.
there's a big hand and a little hand. One is
Yeah.
hour, one is minutes, and then
What
there's a second hand.
what happens when you go back in time and you steal the almanac from Biff? I just don't know anymore.
Hilarity and adventure ensues.
So that's been my week, really.
That's
Is that
crazy.
like I've been like my week has been like a slow breakdown to just be like, just buy it. Just buy Twin Peaks season 3 and watch it again because you know you want to.
Oh my
It's
god.
like fine, fine. And yes, I will spend the extra $5 on HD. Thank you.
Oh my god.
Thank you. Because that I'm sorry.
I
Part
do
eight's
not
coming out.
judge you though. Here's
Part
the
8
thing. No judgment here
here's the
because
thing. There's one episode of season 3 that became so important to people and so weird that they were like, when they did this giant box set that I'm getting, they're like, there's 3 things you're gonna get in 4K ultra high def. You're gonna get the pilot, you're gonna get the European pilot, and you're gonna get part 8 of season 3.
jeez. Jeez. That's crazy.
uh
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be worth it. You're gonna get
oh
so
yeah.
much out of that.
Yeah, I'm not
And
gonna,
like,
I'm not very gonna actually feel bad about this. I just can't believe I finally did it. Like I was just like, I fought with myself for so long, and I was like, you know what? I really want to watch Matthew
well,
Lillard.
plus, wait, what?
Oh yeah, I was waiting to pull that one on you.
Wait,
Matthew Lillard shows up at the beginning of season 3 of Twin Peaks, but like today, Matthew Lillard, like
yeah, but
25
that's
years
okay.
older,
I'm
like
okay with that.
or sorry, 15 years older than Stu. Matthew Lillard.
I'm okay with that. That's fine. I love Matthew Lillard.
Uh,
And now, but here's the other thing. Here's what you got to remember too. Now you have Twin Peaks season 3 portable. You can watch it anytime you freaking want.
that's kind of what I kept telling myself. I was like, well, this is gonna be like one day where I'm gonna want to sit down and just watch it.
Of
I'm gonna
course.
have access to it on my phone.
Of course,
So
if you get a digital code with the box set, then you'll
I don't know. That wasn't on
have
the list
that
of things, so
portable
I don't
as
know yet.
well. So, but yeah, for right now, you got portable. That's good. No judgment. I mean, I bought the deluxe edition of Control because I was like, I don't even care.
You did.
I don't even
I
care.
remember like looking at that and I was like, there's like one mission and like 3 extra outfits. What am I getting with this again?
There are two expansions and an extra mission.
Oh, that's right, because it's also like the season pass too,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like whenever
yeah.
those come out, yeah, I'll just buy the. Here's the thing. I don't actually feel bad just buying expansions to Control because I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah, I know.
So-
For me, I was like, I just don't want to deal with it later. I just want it to be there. But yeah,
Oh,
That's fine.
there's a very special Alan Wake reference in that. That's not just the fact that Alan Wake is in the game. I finally saw it. I say spoiled, but there's a chance I'll never pick up whatever document explains this connection. But there
are
is
you
like
not
a
picking up documents?
No, I am,
Oh.
but that doesn't mean I'm not missing them. So I was like not upset when someone just like tweeted out like a picture of the document
I
that
gotcha.
really does like the Alan Wake Easter egg, and I was like, I'm so happy.
If
I'm so
there's-
happy reading this right
Oh,
now.
if there's a Quantum Break one, I'm gonna
Oh
go
God,
crazy.
I'm surprised we
Um,
haven't seen that. Have you seen? By the way, let's jump to Control now. Have you seen the creepy puppet show yet?
No.
So you have to look at if you come across any like old school TVs, you need to watch them. Sometimes they just have the Darling research videos on them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have a creepy fucking puppet show.
Okay.
I have
that
seen at
makes
least
sense.
2 episodes of it now, and I have nightmares from.
Oh my god.
Like I don't know if you ever watched the Candle Cove Shutters. Is it Channel Zero? The first season. Season had talked about it on Say Report, but Channel Zero, which was the like anthology series that was put out, as like a weird thing because I think it was on Sci-Fi originally,
Mhm.
and you can definitely get it on Shudder, the like Netflix horror streaming service.
Yeah.
I say Netflix. They're not connected to Netflix. It's just like the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
It is like if Netflix was only ever a horror show.
We
a,
talk
a
about
horror.
Shudder a lot. We do not.
Yes.
We are not sponsored.
No, I just like every now and then, like I pay for it for like a few months and watch a bunch of stuff, and then I haven't paid for it for a while, and I'm gonna go back and definitely pay for it again because more stuff is coming out. Nosferatu, which was written
Oh,
by Stephen King's son and filmed in Rhode Island.
I know.
And
I want to watch
my
it.
mother has seen this show and I have not. That
I
is embarrassing.
I want to watch it.
It's also got Zachary Quinto, one of my biggest crushes. So
Mhm.
I have to watch this show.
Mhm. I
So
mean,
like, so yeah, so Channel Zero is definitely available on that, and I think it's been available on different streaming services here and there. But their very first season was called Candle Cove, about this like uh, kids puppet show that was like also basically demonic.
hmm, hmm,
But like the creepiness of that is just like in these two little videos I've seen in Control
that's great.
that are
No,
just, oh god, oh it's so, oh it's shuddering me now.
I mean, is
How,
that after you find Marshall? Because I haven't found
oh yeah,
Marshall
no,
yet.
you definitely would have seen at least one of these by now, if not
Oh,
both
okay.
of them. So
So
they're
yeah, I
just
must
like,
have just missed him.
yeah, they're just like TVs, like those big old like big screen 4x6 like straight up old school late 90s TVs.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a couple of those just like hanging around in offices that I definitely ran into, like two of them where they're just like,
they just start
it,
playing.
yeah, and it's
Oh,
just these two
weird.
little, it's just it's they both star just the same two kids that are like basically the best I can explain is that one of these puppets definitely feels like if Jesse was a child,
Oh my
and I cannot
god.
figure out who this other puppet is supposed to be, or if
Eh,
it's like a rando
is it
or
her
what.
brother?
I don't know. I don't know. No, they seem like friends. They don't seem like relatives. They seem
Okay.
more like friends that are talking. But she's
That'd be
definitely like,
creepy.
you definitely have this like smaller like female doll with red hair
Mhm.
talking about trying to find the Bureau of Control for something, and then this other guy who's kind of dressed like also a child but dressed like one of the soldiers, like the Hiss guards that you're
Mhm.
fighting, like talking to her about like having conversations about things, but like definitely like children. And it's so weird. It's so weird and so creepy because it's like a live action FMV children's puppet show going
Okay,
on
I
in
need to
this game.
find it because all I can think
Oh,
of is
I
that
wish I.
it's like her after the math of her and her brother finding that portal.
Yeah, it's just so weird, but I love it every time.
That's
I've come
crazy.
across, like I said, two parts of it, but it's just like, oh
That's
God, it
crazy.
gives me chills every time I
That's
watch
great.
it.
That's great. Fantastic. Oh my god. That's been my week. It's been little bloop bloop, little pieces of Control here and there. Because I haven't gotten a chance to play it in a couple of days. But yeah, I freaking love that game so much, Zach.
It's
So
really good.
much.
Threshold Kids is
It,
what the puppet show is called. I had to look it up.
oh my god.
Threshold Kids is the name of it. And just like
From
slight
Control?
spoilers. Yeah, from Control. That's what the kids show is called. And just like slight spoilers, like skip ahead 45 seconds because I didn't talk about this. The fact that her hometown is called Ordinary. Did we
Oh
talk about
yeah.
that last
No, we
week?
didn't.
Like, oh my God, her hometown is called
Ordinary.
Ordinary.
Yep.
Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? None of this is real. This is some sort of weird construct in your brain.
In her
I
brain.
don't know what's going on, but oh my God, I can't trust the reality of Control anymore.
No, I mean you can't trust it. Like minute one, you can't trust anything that's going on because like what
did
the
you get to the point where she finally sort of explains who she's talking to? Because it's not Sean Ashmore in an interview room.
No, I know.
Oh my
It's
God.
well, she talks about how after again spoilers for Control, but like this is probably maybe like an hour in, 2 hours in. I don't even know. I can't do video game timeline math thing. But anyways, yeah, she explains that she and her brother were like playing with a slide projector, but
Okay.
we're on the same page, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
No,
So
I've heard this story. Yes.
yeah. So she's playing with her brother with the slide projector, and each slide it was a different portal, and they went through a portal, and things started to come out after them, or they saw like a being, and things started to come after them, and then she ran away, but her brother got taken, right? And now she's trying to find her brother.
And then the Bureau
ever
came in
since
and covered it up, basically.
And the Bureau
like,
covered it up.
Yeah.
But ever since that time, she's had this, like, entity with her, or this thing with her.
Yes.
Called, why can't I think of Polaris. Polaris.
Yes. Because they're like, the
like
North
a guiding star.
The guiding star. Yes.
Emily, who is the fucking best.
And they basically fucking imply you are Polaris in this scenario of like, she's talking to you as Polaris and you are following her through this game.
Yeah.
So
So it's that was great. That whole scene was great.
Man.
Can we talk real quick?
Yes, the answer is yes. Whatever you're about to say, because I'm farther than you. So whatever you want to talk about, we could definitely talk about.
Well, because I have to find Marshall. That is where I'm at. So I just that's where I have to go and find Marshall in like the psych area somewhere. It's
like parapsychology or something that they call it.
Area. Yeah. So that is where I'm at. I just found a side mission that was about like I don't even know what was happening, but I died. Was
it one of the like just go to
ones.
area? It's one of the times when just like go in this area and just fight off dudes for a little while.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to finish one of those timed ones.
Yeah,
I did one accidentally. I did one accidentally because I was like, just do what? I don't know what this is. Let's just do it. And then I died, and then it went away.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can ever do this again, which I don't love.
I mean, they seem to be fairly like randomly generated, which is like they come in a couple of different versions, which is they give you a random area so it's like maintenance, research, executive offices, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, just go to this specific spot in this area of the building, and there's some that are like just fight everything off. There's one called hiss nodes, which is there's like giant red kind of glitchy spots show up, and you just have to shoot them down until they're all gone. Same thing though, like you're being attacked at the same time, so you have to like stay doing it.
This one was I like ran on like a bridge. And then I was like in a hotel and the walls started like crumbling and then a different way would open up and I had to get to the mail.
That's the ashtray mage.
Oh,
maze
okay.
I talked about.
Okay.
So that will come up. Eventually I had to look this up because I was like, I can't figure out what the pattern is. What am I missing?
Oh, I know what I fucked up. I know where I fucked up.
And this is not the first time I've looked stuff up because I keep getting lost. What'll happen is that like I'll hit a checkpoint and go like I want to go do some other stuff and then I'll come back to the checkpoint and then I'll forget what checkpoint I was at.
Okay.
So I'll get lost every now and then.
So that was the ashtray one.
Yes.
Okay,
because
I thought so. I thought so.
Maze, but what's going to happen is at some point you get an item that makes that easier.
Okay.
So you can just because what ends up happening is that you end up going through that. It will only let you into 3 rooms until you have the item that lets you figure out what's going on.
Okay, interesting.
Otherwise, you just end up cycling through the same 3 rooms for like 45 minutes, Zach.
I'm going to do it. I don't even care.
Leave it, Zach. Go back until you come back later when you have the item you need, Zach, because you can't. I did. For 45 minutes, I went through those same like 3 rooms going, I'm missing something. What am I missing? I'm going to do this, or do that, back and forth. And eventually I Google it, and it's like, eventually Audie gives you this, and then you can do it. It's like, fuck. Okay, fine.
I'm going to do it. I need to see it for myself. It was so much fun. And then I turned around on accident and left. Okay. So I'm pissed because I thought...
I assume it's like the carousel horse or the safe, which is a situation where you hit a random thing that's like, go do this, and it'll give you a random power that is not like part of the main missions.
Yeah.
And then you can go do it. So I'm waiting for that to kick off at this point.
Weird. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that pisses me off because I thought, because you walk through the metal detector, it goes off, and then one of those timed events, like,
oh, no, that just happened
off.
randomly, by the way. That timed event is not a part of that mission.
Oh!
What happened is you walked through that, and also the game decided now is a good time to give you a timed mission at a different part of the building.
That makes me so upset. Those can literally just happen?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I'll be going through here and there. Like, I don't know if they're timed to like save points. Like if the game's auto saving, it will then cycle through and give you one randomly or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But like I've been going through and every now and then, like I'll walk through a door and then it'll pop up and be like, "Hey, go back down to research and do this," and I'll be like, "No, I'm doing
Okay.
this right now."
Oh my god, that's
Like the
crazy.
rewards for those are just like more like random mods and like I don't know if they give you ability points, but they definitely give you like mods and like the currency or the like in-game currency
Mm-hmm.
shit going on.
Yeah,
Like that's all those are there for, is to just give you more opportunity to build up stock.
I got
Like
you.
they're not specific. I don't know if there's I'm sure there's achievements tied to those in some way or another, but that's literally the only reward that's going to
That's
come out of those.
crazy.
From what I can tell, is they're just randomly generated
Yeah,
challenges for you to
yeah.
go through. Like,
Okay, all
so,
right. But no, I was gonna say I want to talk about the hotline
oh
and
man,
how
I
it
love
is my
Hotline.
favorite mechanic
Oh, it's so
of
good.
this game.
I'm pretty certain that's Max Payne. That's Sam Lake. That's the guy who might have written the game. I have to look it up again, but
Oh
like
really?
Sam Lake is like one of the big shots at Remedy,
Mm.
and I know he's definitely like the original like model and voice for Max Payne, but I think he's one of their main writers now too.
Yeah.
Because people were like talking about the fact that because I haven't played Max Payne in very long, I don't notice this, but someone was like, I don't think Sam Lake can do any voice except Max Payne voice.
That's
But it's
great.
always like Alan Wake, where I was like, oh, I recognize this voice fucking right away.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because for some reason, for a game that I have not played in years, and my only experience with Max Payne recent or with Alan Wake recently is the first part of Quantum Break that I played.
Yeah.
Immediately, I went, oh, that's fucking Alan Wake. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like that kicked off right
Yeah.
in my brain.
God, it's I love that
But
people
but
that
yeah,
Remedy has just people from their other games in it. She's
yeah,
like, yep,
yeah. They've
keeping it
got
in the
like
family.
yeah, exactly. They're keeping people employed. They know
Yep.
what they're doing. They've
Yeah.
got people that they bring in. But yes, the hotline. Oh my
Oh my
God, the
god, it's
concept of
so
like,
good.
especially because they don't care that like the concept is you're going back to the office and getting on the phone, and they don't care that that like breaks whatever version. Let's just go in the menu, listen to it, do the thing, and
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter otherwise.
Yeah. I love the animation of Trench like being freaking astral projected around you.
This like backlit
And then
strobe
like
light
just
that comes
yeah,
out at you.
yeah.
That's like, oh,
And
that should be your shadow, but
there's
actually it's Trench
it's
up on the
his
wall.
yeah. It's his freaking shadow. And then there's just like 3 camera angles going on too. On the wall, but then when you actually listen to the hotline, it's those same 3 camera angles. I also love that when it's being like astral projected, like that's what I'm gonna call it, right?
I mean,
When
that's the
it's
best.
that's
That's
the
the best
best
idea of it.
description
Like
of it,
that's the
what
best
it is.
description of it. Yes.
When it's being astral projected, it's like you get bits and pieces. You get what you need to get in order to like just continue on. You just get the bits and pieces of what he's trying to say. But then when you listen to the actual hotline message, it's like full-fledged
Here's
story.
a 2 minute. Here's a
Like-
2 minute FMV video of Sam Lake in like a dark, smoky room.
And it's incredible. And
We don't know what the
it's
board
bringing
is. We keep trying to figure out what it is, but quite frankly, we just don't know if we can trust it. But it's our only lead.
like and him being like, "Oh god." It's just like, "Dude, what happened here?" And then I freaking love that it's like live action. And I love that all the stuff with Darling is live action. And like all of the photos are freaking real photos.
Yeah,
and it's
like-
just like it brings that element that I like ate up
At this
from
point-
Quantum Break into this game.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't want Darling to show up if he's just going to show up as human. If he shows up as like some sort of weird fucking conglomerate hiss monster, fine.
Yeah.
But I do not want
Him
any
to-
sort of CGI like
Nope,
render
me
of
either.
him of Darling
Me
in
either.
that lab coat just like sitting there because
Yeah.
it will
It would be
break
awful.
the rest of the game for
Oh, it
me.
would be terrible. Are you kidding me?
How, so here's the best thing. So I don't know if you know this. Let me start here because I want to talk about what might be one of my favorite games ever. Still, since the like couple of years ago since I played it. Have you ever heard of Her Story?
Uh, I don't think so.
So her story is an FMV game, and if anybody out there doesn't know what that means, full motion video, it was a thing in like the 90s going into the early 2000s where like they didn't have the technology to render human beings,
Hmm.
and so they would straight up just film people, and then like whatever interactions in your game would go through the video. So like
I
that would
just
be
call it live action,
right, but yes,
but it's
but
very
everyone else,
different.
it's called FMV like as a standard
Yeah.
in video games.
Yeah.
So like anybody who's ever played Myst, like on a small scale, FMV in a video game is something like Myst, where like you're going through a CGI rendered world, and then there's these books you would pick up, and in those books there would be little videos of like a live action dude saying something that was important to the story. That's a small version of it. In a larger version of it, you would get games, and I can't think of a specific title, but essentially what you would have is like, here's a murder mystery game, and what you're essentially doing is like, think of like a point and click adventure game
Hmm.
where it's like you click on this item or that item and a character would go over and pick up that and comment on it, except it's literally a live action character, and it's
Oh,
like, let me click on the book, and the live action actor would walk over to the book and pick it out and start reading from it and stuff like that.
there's a
Like there are
bunch of those on the Switch store, on the eStore right now.
Yes,
It's
yes. There's like
crazy.
there's older games like, oh sorry, yes, the biggest one, we'll talk about this on the Switch store especially, is called Night Trap.
Yeah.
Night Trap was a game that was all full motion video, so it was a sorority house like slasher film idea, right? Where it was, you are an FBI agent in a truck with surveillance cameras watching. Let's get past the creepy part of that sentence, that you're watching a sorority house through these surveillance cameras, but it's because there are monsters about to attack it, and so you would switch through each security camera, setting off the traps that would catch the monsters to save the sorority girls.
So like Five
But
Nights at Freddy's kind of.
kind of, except that you're watching what are literally live actors going through a live set house,
Yeah.
and so like you would click a button that would then set off the video that is the trap that was catching the monster and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So her story
Crazy.
comes out a few years ago, and it is again a murder mystery, because again, video games, murder mysteries and shooting things is just easier to make entertaining. But it is that you are sitting at a computer, clearly like an early like Windows 98 style computer, and you are cycling through videos that are interrogation tapes of a specific woman about a murder. So like her husband is dead. That's all you know going into this, is that this woman is being interrogated because her husband was found dead like in their basement or something. And so you are just searching through hours of interrogation video with this woman, trying to piece together what happened. And it is as simple as, I am going to search the word murder, and it's going to pull up, like by the literal script of the game, it is going to pull up every video in which this woman says the word murder. But you
Jeez.
only have access to like the first 8 search results for any word that you search. So like if I search the word the, every video in the game will probably come up, but it will only show you 8 videos at the top. And so like you have to start sitting there and going like, well, okay, what's her husband's name? Let me search that. Okay, here's the 8 videos that come up if I search her husband's name. Let me listen to all of those. Oh, it says something about him going in the basement. Let me search everything that says basement. And then here's all of the videos that come up with basement. Let me search through those videos and see if I can figure out that. And you sit there and just cycle through all of these. You just pick search terms out of your brain and go, I
Interesting.
think this will be the thing that gets me. And I mean, the most interesting thing about that is that at some point you just decide to stop. There's certain, like, I don't know if it's a time stamp or if it's a certain number of videos or if it is a specific set of videos, but at some point your character goes, oh, my ride's outside, which is like the game being like, if you decide to exit now, you leave and just decide whether or not you've got enough of this story to be satisfied personally with the story.
Jeez.
There's not like a moment where you go like, aha, this is how you murdered the guy and this is the exact evidence and now you're going to jail. No, you're searching through shit that's like years old. That's all done. It's just a matter of, are you satisfied with the story? And so you can sit there for hours and hours and hours on end searching through stuff and building up this whole story in your head about exactly what happened. And then eventually you're satisfied and you leave. Or you go until she goes, my ride's outside. And you go, well, I guess I'm done. And you hit exit and you're done. You're
Jeez.
left with whatever. So
That's
those,
crazy.
it's, and yet it's fantastic. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my life.
Wow.
And those people, I have to look up exactly which game they put out because a bunch of FMV games just came out and like murder mystery games just came out in that exact style. I think they're the ones that put out Telling Lies, which stars the girl from this final episode, the final season of Scrubs, and is in Red State. I think that's the same. I think that's the same person.
I don't.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
I don't know.
But that was another game that is like, here's um oh, it is Telling Lies. Perfect. So Telling Lies is another game that's like you're cycling through four different people's like videos that you're put up online, and you're just kind of cycling through and making decisions yourself about what is true and what isn't and stuff like that. So they've got this whole setup. Oh, it's so good. But it's all live action. None of it is like pre-rendered. It's not like Until Dawn where you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
Pantera and Rami Malek.
Yeah.
That's weird. Look at these weird renditions of them. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is just a video of them
Yeah.
that you're searching
Yeah.
through.
That's crazy. That's cool. I like that. I mean, that's it. It's so cool to me that like you can have that in a video game. I mean, that's why I was like, I need to play Quantum Break. Nothing can stop me from playing Quantum Break because I need to see how this works. And that really was my first like interaction with that kind of world of live action and all that. But
Where it's like this mix of like interactive live action
Yeah.
video.
yeah,
You and I might need to do Bandersnatch one day.
Bandersnatch. Okay.
Bandersnatch was the Black Mirror thing that just came out a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, which was
Uh-huh.
literally it's just like that. Netflix, you go through, you're
Oh,
watching
yeah.
the show, and then you like make choices, and
There's
then it
a-
shows you a video based on those choices
There's a
and stuff like
Stretch
that.
Armstrong one.
And
And a
the
Minecraft.
the Minecraft story mode from
Yeah.
Telltale Games. They did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, but Bandersnatch was the one that was like straight up like produced by Netflix, Black Mirror, like straight up. This is our
Yeah.
concept for it.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Crazy.
Same kind of thing. It was like choose your own adventure, basically.
And I
But-
love I always loved Choose Your Own Adventures, although I never like took them seriously. I just liked the idea. I would literally just flip through and hardly read the story. I just liked flipping through the different things. But Quantum Break, where it's like, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And I'm like, which one makes sense? Which episode do I want to watch now? I just was I need to play that game again so bad. But this is really filling that void. Oh, man. But yeah.
So here's the thing.
wait.
Here's another reason we should watch Telling Lies. Sorry, I had to
Oh.
look this up because I need to make sure. The lead from Upgrade is also in this game. Yes. Lead from Upgrade, the girl from last season of Scrubs and the movie Red State by Kevin Smith is in it. Someone that
Oh
I
my
think everyone
God.
recognizes. And one of the main actors from Westworld is in it. Yeah.
Wow.
So like, yeah,
The
they got
main
like,
guy from Upgrade. I'm fine. I'm sold.
Alexandra Shipp from X-Men Apocalypse and Love
Holy
Simon and
shit,
Straight Outta
okay.
Compton is also in this game. So like they were like, well,
Holy
the
shit.
game is like programming that type of game. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I know how to program games, but you film the stuff and then you program like the interactions of what
Yeah.
video plays next. I
Yeah.
assume that means you get more money to get like really high quality actors in that situation,
Wait.
like good character actors in that situation.
Alexandra, isn't that Storm? Doesn't she play Storm?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe it is. Yes, that is Storm
Yeah.
from
I
from
love
X-Men
her.
Apocalypse. Yes, she is
Ugh.
also in this game.
That's
So
awesome.
like,
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, okay. Well, that sucks. Now we gotta play that. It doesn't suck. But it sucks in,
And
like,
it's getting,
a
like-
good
and
way.
it's getting like majorly high praise. Like her story had such great praise the year it came out that you start to worry that like this happened with the guys that made Until Dawn. Their latest game came out, and Siegen was talking about the fact that like their latest game doesn't feel as like well made as Until Dawn.
Mm.
But Telling Lies right now is like one of the top games of 2019 from people. Like it's
Wow.
doing great
Wow.
critically. Anyway, I have no idea financially, and I don't care about that part.
Yeah, no.
But like critically, it's being held up like her story was great. Telling Lies is like a great build from that. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
excellent.
Good. Oh man. I also we were talking about Francis Ford Coppola earlier, and that's also what I did with this week. Is we went and saw the Apocalypse Now Final Cut in the
That's a
theater.
that's a game. That's a movie I've never
It's a
seen.
what?
I know. Here's the deal. Dale, I'm going to tell you something right now. The 3/4 of the conversation I remember might be the only Francis Ford Coppola I've ever actually seen. So,
Wow. Wow. I mean, here's
if
the
you had,
thing.
if
I'm
you
not
had
actually.
a cup of Dunkin' Donuts, you'd throw it at me right now.
I was just gonna say, I'm actually not. Like, I'm surprised, but I'm not that surprised because you've never seen Godfather. So if you've never seen Godfather, how the hell are you gonna watch Apocalypse Now?
And I only watched the conversation because it was required of me in a class.
Of you.
So
I get it. I mean, here's the thing. I only watched Godfather Part 2, the Apocalypse Now, because I was forced to as well. Like, I had to watch those for classes. But, oh man, that's crazy. You go on there. Oh.
It's so funny every time Dale says like she hasn't seen anything, and I go, "Oh, that's weird. You haven't seen that." And then I remember she's seen a lot of classic shit I've never seen. So like to me, it's like you haven't seen a lot of stuff from like 1990 to now.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But you've seen a lot of stuff pre 1990 that I have not seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've also not. I mean, there's also like I talk about at work and stuff. We were talking about Apocalypse Now and all these other war movies and whatnot, but like I've never seen Deer Hunter, and Deer Hunter was before Apocalypse Now. But like
is Apocalypse Now or Platoon the one that they're making fun of in that episode of American Dad with the golf course war reenactment? I feel like that's Apocalypse Now, right?
Or what's
that
happening?
Steve is like where Steve is like basically reenacting Apocalypse Now where they're is that what that is that
I
what
don't
they're
know
parodying?
what scene in American Dad you're talking
No,
about.
there's not a scene. There's a whole episode.
I don't
like
know what
season 4 or
episode
5.
you're talking about.
There's an episode where he goes and does like a war reenactment with Stan, and when he shows up, he's thinking it's a Civil War reenactment, and they're like, no, this is fucking Vietnam, and I'm pretty certain the whole episode after that is just Apocalypse Now.
Well, so I've never seen Platoon, so it's hard for me to judge based on that. I don't know. You can look it up, but I don't know.
We're gonna have to watch all 3. Let's watch Apocalypse Now and then Platoon and then that American Dad episode because we'll need an upper after 2 downers.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Apocalypse Now is a movie that I really, really enjoy. I love that movie.
I may also be thinking of Full Metal Jacket. Sorry,
Oh
I was
my
thinking
God.
of Kubrick and all of this.
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
I forgot that Kubrick was Full Metal Jacket.
I can quote that one scene from Full Metal Jacket. I've never seen the full movie. Anyways, Apocalypse Now is a movie that I really, really enjoy, and again, the only reason why I've seen Apocalypse Now is for my intro to film class. It was one of the required viewings, right? We watched it during class. My class was an 8 a.m. class. It was my freshman year, so I was like,
God, welcome to college. Wake up at 8 a.m. and fucking watch this shit.
It was a huge welcome to college class. And then like college was easy after that. So
it also sounds like the type of class that's like a bunch of freshmen would take and be like, "Oh, film class, that's great. We'll watch movies for an entire semester." Perfect.
Yeah. That class was filled with like a handful of film majors, and then the rest were like business or marketing
students.
or
Yeah, exactly.
computer or like education, and I'm like, none of you want to be here. None of you want to be here. You are here for an easy A, and you're going to find out that it's not going to be an easy A, and it's going to be hilarious.
What's great is those marketing guys will then go work for a film studio and not know what any of them are talking about because they didn't pay attention.
Because they just slept. But anyways, so the thing about that class was it was a welcome to class kind of thing, welcome to college kind of thing, because it was more a lesson in, oh, this classroom is across the street from my residence hall. I could wake up at 7:50 and get there. That's fine.
You know, this is how I time my 2 jobs now, right? I'm literally 20 minutes away from both my jobs, and every morning I wake up and go, I bet I can do like 10 more minutes,
Yeah.
but I can make it if the traffic's good. Just like...
There was this is such a bad, and then I'll go back to Apocalypse Now. One of the proudest moments I had with that class in freshman year was I woke up at like 7:50, maybe 7:49, I don't even know, and I was like, I need food. I need food because I need to be awake for this class. So it was like also the first time where I'm like, oh, I'm in college. I can walk around in PJs if I fucking want. I don't care. Like, I live on campus. If I want to go to class in my pajamas, I'm gonna do that.
This is how every senior thinks, by the way. I love the fact that you hit this moment so early, because this is how every college senior thinks.
It's, Zach, college was, like, very easy for me. Because I just, like... I don't know. I was just having this conversation, but yeah. So I booked it from my residence hall to the dining hall. So was Thorpe there when you were there? Thorpe Hall? Okay. So I went from Thorpe to the dining hall back to Horace Mann.
The year before I started.
Oh, really?
That might be the new one. Is it was that the new fancy residence hall?
No, the new fancy residence hall was New Hall. That's where I lived
New
all
Hall was built
year.
right before. Yeah, New Hall was built right before I started, so everything else was built before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Thorpe, I went from Thorpe. If any of you know the Rick layout,
Thorpe might be the one that they stuck me in for orientation, which made me go, I don't ever want to live at college. I'm going to live at home and drive in every day. Yeah.
Nice. That makes sense. I loved Thorpe Hall when I was a freshman. But anyway, so I went from Thorpe Hall to the dining center, which is not far, right?
Nope.
But I ran there, had to get food, which like there's a good amount of people in there.
Yeah,
and
the
then
biggest thing is that you probably waited in line longer than it took you to walk.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing and the dangerous thing was like Thorpe Hall. The 3 buildings I went to during this day was Thorpe Hall, the dining hall, and then Horace Mann, which is in right the middle of both of those buildings, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it's just one line, and they're all like a stone throw from each other. So I just like ran past Horace Mann, got food, ran back, and was still there on time. And I'm like, I should not have just learned this.
I should not have unlocked this talent.
I should not have just learned this. But I did, and it was great.
Oh man, that's great. That's like the day that I was like, oh, you mean if I skip like 3 classes, I'm good? Because like I get 4 absences and then it's a problem? Yeah. I should never have been told that. No one should ever put that on the syllabus. God. College professors who are listening to this in the future, never put the number of times someone can be absent to a class on a syllabus, because they will try and make that work. And then they'll get stuck in Washington, D.C., and they'll come back like 3 days later than they expected, and then they'll almost fail your class.
Oh my God. I need to hear that story. But anyways.
That was only the second time I took that psych class. It's fine.
Oh my God. But anyways, so one of the mornings that I was in my intro to film class was Apocalypse Now. And I remember watching the first half of that movie, falling asleep, waking up at another scene, which I don't know if do you know stuff about Apocalypse Now, or do you have no clue?
I have like bits and pieces that I've gotten through osmosis.
Do you know that there's a USO scene? Like there's the performance with like the Playboy bunnies?
Nope, don't know about that one.
All right. So, there's a scene where they go to a USO like show, and it's the Playboy bunnies, and they're like dancing and doing all that, right? And it's all the guys from Vietnam, whatever. So I fell asleep, and they were on this river, like going through, shooting, whatever. Fell asleep.
Okay, that scene sounds familiar. What's really funny is that scene sounds familiar.
Well, it's basically the whole movie, Zach.
The whole movie is just a boat on a river.
The whole movie, they're basically.
You know what's really funny? That's also definitely an American Dad reference, which is what I'm remembering.
Jesus.
That Roger one episode is just like, oh yeah, I have like a whole episode where I was on a banana boat on a river and something.
Jeez.
And I think that's that
Oh
shot.
man. God. Okay. So and then I wake up at the USO thing, and I swear to you right now, I thought we started watching a different movie. And I was just like, oh fuck. I just fucked up all my chances in this class.
Oh,
my
man.
teacher my professor had to turn on the lights and change the movie. Have I been asleep for that long? And then no, there's Martin Sheen again. And I'm like, how is this the same movie? I feel like I've been sleeping forever. But anyways,
I'm trying to think of what movie I can equate that to that's like has that much of a tonal shift. That's like if you fell asleep, not to beat a dead horse, but if you started watching the Twin Peaks movie Firewalk and you fell asleep before the first half hour of that movie ended and you woke up sometime in the second 2 hours of that movie, you'd think you were watching a different movie.
Well, it's like La Vita Bella.
That movie opens up with Chris Isaacs in a trench coat, and it ends with Ray Wise murdering his daughter. And I don't know, that's a very different movie.
Well, it's also like La Vita Bella, like Life is Beautiful, right? It's, which, I don't know if you know that movie, it's Italian, it's Roberto Benigni. No idea? Going over your head?
No, we're talking about, I'm sorry, Fellini, what now?
This is it's an Italian movie. It's about, so basically the first half of that movie is really happy about this guy and his family and all of that, and then the second half is there in a concentration camp. And
I shouldn't laugh at that sentence.
No, but
I'm sorry.
No, but it's a total shift. And like while they're in the concentration camp, it's him and his son, and he pretends like they're playing a game so that his kid doesn't really know what's going on.
Oh, this sounds familiar. Yes, no, I've heard of this.
You've probably seen the biggest scene out of that movie that I think is used a lot is where Roberto Benigni, who is the star of the movie, he pretends like he can translate German, and so he stands up next to this German soldier, and instead of translating, because he actually can't, he's explaining the quote-unquote rules of the game to his son. And it's like, that's probably one of the biggest iconic scenes of that movie. But like, if you fall asleep in the first half of that movie and then wake up in the second half, you're like, what the hell just happened? But like, now that I've seen Apocalypse Now, I've actually sat down Devin and I sat down and watched it, not in a theater-esque environment. I've seen that whole movie. The USO scene is really not that tonally different. I just had no idea what was going on.
No, I just imagine that, like, thinking of...
I woke up to Playboy bunnies dancing.
Yeah, from what I know of that movie, I can imagine that scene being like, how ridiculous was it that we tried to distract our soldiers with this bullshit when horrible things were happening around them?
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. And then the rest of the movie happened. But, yeah. So the final cut is basically Francis Ford Coppola.
99% USO show, and then like 1 minute on either side.
No. So there's Apocalypse Now that was like released theatrically and all of that. Then there's Apocalypse Now Redux, which has a bunch of stuff added to it. I don't know what has been added to it. I've never seen Apocalypse Now Redux.
Sounds like this type of thing where someone came through and was like, hey, we got a bunch of random shit. What if we threw this on a DVD and sold it to people?
Well, it went from 2 hours being the original release to like three like and a half, maybe. I could have that wrong.
Someone added the missing pieces to that movie.
Redux is 3 and something. I don't know. It's not straight 3 hours. It's like 3 and maybe like 20. 3:20. I don't know. 3 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know. I don't know exactly the time. But now Final Cut comes and is 3 hours long. So it cuts stuff out of Redux, but like still was able to make a 3-hour
If
movie.
this is me guessing, I'm assuming Kubrick was still alive for the final cut. So,
Final Cut was just this year.
oh,
Yeah.
I got nothing then.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say was, it sounds like you had, theatrical cut, and then someone was like, "What if we just threw in all of the shit they cut from the movie and tried to resell it for money?"
Nope.
And then someone else came in and was like, "You idiots! No,
Yeah.
this needs to still be cut down, and let me do like what is essentially like the Blade Runner final cut. Like this is what I actually wanted to put on screen, but they wouldn't let me thing." But if it just came out this year, no. Like, who has that authority?
I'm almost positive it came out this year because I was looking at a thing today, and when I typed in Apocalypse Now to find out what year it came out, Apocalypse Now Final Cut 2019 showed up.
Jesus.
So I was like, oh, all right. So anyways, now it's a 3-hour movie, and the things that are added to it just are, it's really cool, and like it's kind of hard to talk about it because you haven't seen the original movie. But like the movie is super, super slow. Like it is very much we are building the story, we're telling you the story, and you need to be there for the ride. It's kind of like a day in the life, or a couple days in the life of these men. Like you need to live in it, just like these characters.
It's a simple
lived in
slice of life drama. Just the morning to afternoon to night of a day-to-day soldier in the worst, dumbest shit America ever did. Just one of those.
But so but it flows. Like it flows really, really well. It's
I'm
just
sure it does.
super slow.
It's just funny to think of like putting the Vietnam War against the term.
Well, there was that whole. Well, that's what they were, right? They were. All of these movies came out to show what the fuck was going on, like what these people, what people had to go through in the Vietnam, and in Vietnam, and it's just like words don't work right now. Stop it.
It's the Vietnam.
So it's like that's what those movies were. And it was totally to, like, capitalize on what we just went through as a country.
It's a weird thing, right? Because it was one of those first this is the thing that happens in the 70s. And, I mean, to really call back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood of all friggin' things, like, I think this was a thing, right? Like, you saw movie making changed in the 70s. A big part of that, if you ask Quentin Tarantino, is the Charlie Manson murder of Sharon Tate, and to a lot of other people is also Vietnam. Like these are things where, like and Watergate, even with Nixon, which would come years later. But like this whole idea of this huge shift in how we view the world includes like you need to show the world the terrible shit that's actually going on.
Oh yeah,
because like we have created this weird like saccharine whitewashed version of the world, and someone came in with a fucking sledgehammer and was like, no, but also the fucking Vietnam War is happening, and also people are rich white people are being murdered in their homes, and all this other stuff. So it's weird with Vietnam stories, especially that come out in the late 70s, where it's like you're definitely making money off of this horrible thing, but also it's also the only way people will know how horrible this
was. Well, I was talking about that yesterday with one of my coworkers, in that like I feel like when I was learning about these wars, the wars that really got focus were like World War II and World War I. Like those I remember having month-long, almost 2-month-long discussions about. Like it was crazy. And I feel like Vietnam and like the Korean War and even like the Cold War, all those really got glossed over. And I said that honestly, if I wasn't exposed to these Vietnam Wars, to these Vietnam War movies and these Vietnam War films, like if I was never exposed to those, I don't feel like I would understand Vietnam. And let's be honest, I barely understand it now. Like it just doesn't make sense. And that's what everybody was fighting about, is that it doesn't make sense why we're here, all of that. But it's weird to me that like that it gets glossed over. So yeah, it's kind of gross that they were like, hey, this huge thing that kind of brought everybody together, but also divided the country. Like, let's make some movies on it. But it's also, that's like you said, it's the only way some people are gonna understand what the fuck happened, because it freaking hurts to watch, and it's like, yeah, it should hurt to watch. We should, like, people, how people say, like, we shouldn't have been there. All of that. I don't know, because I don't
That's a
actively
discussion.
think about war. So
That's a discussion you and I will have off camera someday, and maybe we'll go back to it when, I don't know, a war movie comes out. But I do want to talk about. Okay, this is why First Blood is an important piece of cinema and book writing, novel writing, whatever you want to call it. So I got in this fight with a dude online one day because I was talking about we were talking about Rambo. Somehow we got on Rambo because we were talking about something else, and Rambo came up. This was a Twitter fight, so it went stupid real quick. And I was like, this is why Rambo is so important, because Rambo is all about the like destructive like PTSD that came out of Vietnam and all of this other stuff. We got a whole back and forth before I realized that this guy was doing the jackassy thing, which is that the first Rambo film is not called Rambo, it's just called First Blood. And then it's Rambo, I think the second movie is just called Rambo 2, or it might be Rambo something else, I forget.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're doing the fucking jackassy thing, aren't you? Where you're just like, oh, the first movie is not actually called Rambo, so if you call it Rambo, you're just being... No. First Blood, just to get away from that stupid fucking conversation. But the novel and even the subsequent Sylvester Stallone film, First Blood, is all about just how fucking like horrible Vietnam was for someone, because the actual movie and novel are about a guy who does not want to kill people, and in fact questionably maybe only kills one person in that whole movie. If you consider, and I've been told this, I have not actually sat down and watched First Blood yet. I have not made this decision myself.
I've never seen
but my
it,
understanding is that whether or not you consider when he takes down a helicopter with a rock, if that pilot dies, that's the only time, questionably, Rambo kills anybody in that first movie.
Jeez. Yeah.
He throws a rock at a helicopter and hits the blades, and it just comes down. It's like a whole thing. But otherwise, that is an entire movie about like a guy who is like traumatized by Vietnam, and like he gets into a situation where he gets blamed, I believe gets blamed for something he doesn't do, but because he's like the drifter that just came into town, it's just assumed he did this thing. And the way he is treated and the way that like local law enforcement treat him and all this, it becomes like a whole extreme like kind of treatise on how we're treating these veterans that came back from this stupid thing we sent them out to do. And then they came back and we're like, we're so ashamed of this idea, we're trying to ignore it, that we're also going to ignore the veterans from Vietnam in the process. That like all of a sudden we're not giving them the right mental health treatment to deal with their trauma and that sort of thing. And so like we hit this weird thing, and but the time is that First Blood comes out in the 80s, 20 years after Vietnam ends, like, or 15 years, because that was like early 70s. But like, it's not till the 80s that we finally start being like, oh shit, we fucked this up, guys. We fucked up this whole process. And so it's really like a long time before we start getting these movies that are like, this was a dumb, bad thing we did, and we need to deal with that. And because the 80s was the 80s, that meant that a production company came in and was like, but we're also going to make money off of it. And so you immediately get into this weird situation where it was like, we want to talk about Vietnam and the terrible things we did there, but we really want to make money off of it. So what if it was really flashy?
That's weird. Okay, so we were just, like I said, we were just watching an episode of Instinct before we recorded, and it was talking about duality and whatnot. And like, it is this situation where you're being gross because you're making money off of this tragedy, But at the same time, these stories still need to get told. And movies are so people respond to movies. They're one of the easiest forms of media for people to like sit down and just watch. And it makes it's easier to stomach when you watch a movie too, because it's just a movie. But like when you step back and are like, no, this shit actually happened, like that's why it's such a sucky situation where it's like, yeah, I don't want it sucks that they're making money off of this stuff, but at the same time, I don't think I would know what I know about the Vietnam War if I hadn't seen these movies.
And that pretty
Which
much comes down to
is
it. That comes down to a situation. I don't know if you've ever seen this comic. I forget the name of the guy, and I'm sorry for that. But there's this like a comic that goes around Twitter all of the time. Every time every time something terrible happens, basically, which is like, um, it's like a serf in like feudal Europe.
Mhm.
There's like complaining about the monarchy, and a guy comes out of a well and is like, "Oh, you complain about society, and yet you live in it every
Yeah.
day,
Yep.
basically."
Yep.
And it's like a situation that's like, yeah, like it sucks that that's the only way a mass
Mhm.
audience understands something like Vietnam, or even later, like post 9/11, all of the Iraq War stuff.
Yeah.
Like Bones. I watched 12 seasons of Bones, and
Mhm.
one of the biggest things about that is that Booth, it's like one of your major characters, is a second Gulf War veteran.
Yep.
He goes to Afghanistan, comes back for like seasons, and there's literally an entire season about how he went back to Iraq to train more people and came back because that was like a thing we were glorifying after
Yeah.
2003
Yep.
all the
Yep.
time. And it's just how we process and understand things, because we live in a society where it's like, well, if you can make money off of it, then we'll talk about it. And then you have to like wait for movies like Black Hawk Down to come out and be
Yeah.
like, oh shit, it sucks to be a soldier sometimes.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan, is that really how brutal World War II was? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
because we weren't making money off of things that weren't like, I'm gonna punch a Nazi in the face for years,
Yeah.
until it was like, well, what if we showed what the actual storming the beach at Normandy looked like, which is that it was fucking horrific, guys.
Yeah. I mean, Hacksaw Ridge, like that movie is hard to watch, but that movie's so good. Like I love that movie because it's a good movie. But every did you see that
No.
Hacksaw Ridge? Okay. It is a tough movie to watch, but it's done in this way where it's like, Jesus, like this was a horrific event that these people needed to go through. And yeah, it's just yeah, I don't know.
And it's just how we
It's this
process things,
hard,
and it's weird. It's
but
weird
it
because
is.
this is how we
Ow.
as a group process things right now, because we are based on this idea of what makes money
Mhm.
is prestigious kind
Yeah.
of thing.
But
And
it's
so like that's how people have learned to work in
Mhm.
that system and be like, that's how Stanley Kubrick comes in and makes a movie like
yeah.
Full Metal Jacket, or how Francis Ford Coppola comes in and makes a movie like Apocalypse Now, where you're like, we need to show people these things, and the only way we're going to do it is by getting high profile actors to come in and do this,
Mhm.
or we're going to come in and we're going to be really flashy with this or that. It's like, but you need to understand that this was a horrible event,
Yeah.
and the only way to do it is with this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's this weird thing where I don't know.
I mean, even the conversation, like we had talked
Yeah.
about that, like the whole idea of government surveillance
Mhm.
just
It
in the
makes it
70s and 80s, because like
watching
that's a thing we need to talk about.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, like, we're making these people paranoid
Yeah.
by setting them out there and doing this thing.
I mean,
But
setting it, like I said, if it's a movie, it's easier to stomach too. Like it's way easier to stomach than if you were just watching the news, because it's this quote unquote like fantasy world, but you still need to know that it happened. So if this is how you're going to get these stories told, I mean, if we're not going to learn it in school, like I said, I don't remember learning that much about the Vietnam War in school. And like that's kind of where it should
no, and it's because
that's where it should be taught. You should be
Right.
taught about it there. I shouldn't you know, I should be getting the education there, and then using these movies to like further that education, and using documentaries to further that education, and books and all of that. But you need to talk about it. You need
Right.
to talk about these things.
And unfortunately, and I don't know, so let me explain. Oh, God, we're gonna go long again, but it's fine. We'll still end this thing
This is
before an hour
not
and a
where
half.
I expected this
I swear.
conversation to go
No,
to.
and it's great because guess what? I'm gonna tie it back to Twin Peaks at the end of this.
Jesus.
I promise it'll make sense.
I
It's
was
not
going to
just
talk
me
about
being
Pokemon.
self-referential. We'll talk about that next week because there's a direct tomorrow.
I know.
But so, and you can tell me if your high school did the same thing. My high school did this. This is how history classes always worked in my like American history, especially always worked in our schools, which was like you talk about the founding of America, definitely not the real story of how America was founding. We definitely whitewash a bunch of that shit. Talk about the founding of America. Then you get into like the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. Those are the two important ones. We're not gonna talk about the War of 1812 or the French and Indian War. None of that shit matters. What matters is the Revolutionary War, where we became a country, and then we talk about the Civil War, where the country was at war with itself, and we don't talk about anything that happened in between, even though that shit's also important, but we skip over that because we don't have a lot of time.
Well, I mentioned it. Yeah.
Then you get at the end of Civil War and you skip Reconstruction entirely. The entire section where things like Song of the South came out was like a whole other like weird thing with the Walt Disney Company because that's a weird era that they're doing. But like it's a whole thing that you skip over because like no, we ended slavery with the Civil War. Let's get to the next thing, which is like World War One. There's like 50 years in between that we just don't talk about. And you get to World War One. Even in World War One, we don't talk about that much because we talk about how we just kind of came in after a thing, and Franz Ferdinand got shot. A bunch of people went to war. We just kind of skip over that. Cool. Then shit went bad financially for a while. We talk about the Great Depression and how that kind of sucked. Cool. We'll read a bunch of Steinbeck novels. I love Steinbeck. That's great. Still, it's an era we talk about all the time. And then we get into World War Two, and we talk about how America came in after fucking Pearl Harbor and kicked ass, and then we ran out of time. So let's kind of talk about the Civil Rights Movement because it's February. So we talk about the Civil Rights Movement a little bit, and then that's it. So we went from World War II to the Civil Rights era, and we skipped the 25 years in between those.
Yeah.
And we didn't really talk about Vietnam a lot because the Civil Rights era is right there. Why would we talk about Vietnam where America looked bad when we could talk about the Civil Rights era where we can pretend America looked good because we pretend like we were listening to the people protesting during that when really America was also bad then. But let's talk about Martin Luther King for a while and feel better about ourselves. And then we should really talk about current history and shit's been weird since 9/11. And we skip over so much shit in our public school system about American history. Like that's what I remember talking about because those were like the events we talked about and we skipped over everything else. And I don't know if it was the same for you, but for us that's definitely what we did.
I mean, I don't remember like a timeline. I
just remember because it was literally every other year.
Yeah,
Like,
no. The biggest things I remember learning about were like the Industrial Revolution. Because
we didn't even learn that. I skipped over that shit.
Loved learning about that. And then, yeah, we talked about World War II a bunch. The thing, too, that when I was in school, for me, for history, it was a lot of, okay, I was really interested in, like, old American history, like the Civil War and all of that. And that stuff interested me in middle school. And then in high school, it was just like World War II, which is fine. We need to talk about it. It's an important thing that we need to talk about, right? But then I was
you're really hammering it in your head that Nazis are bad because apparently that's a concept we need to hammer into people these days.
But like in high school, I was way more interested in European history to the point where my final year, where I did not need to take a history class, I took a European history class because I was like, I just need to know more about what was happening in Europe and in all of this. I just need to know because I'm not going to get it in my other classes. and it's really where I'm interested in. I'm interested in all the stuff that was going on in Italy, like everything, just everything. I am interested in all of this. So that's where my attention went. So all of the attention that I could have been giving to the stuff we were talking about in my American history classes, I was trying to give to European history, which I know is not great, but it was also
It's
like,
I mean, it's more indicative of like a structural problem
yeah,
with the way we teach history in this
yeah.
country. It's got
But it's
less to
also
do with that. But
just like teachers make a difference. I can't get
oh
into
yeah,
this
oh
conversation
definitely, no, no, no.
because like
I mean, the short answer is that like you get someone who's passionate about teaching that,
yeah,
and you're gonna learn way more from someone who's not.
yep,
The
yeah.
the end. Like that's
The
how that.
the
Yeah.
year that we were learning about like World War II, where we would have been talking about Vietnam, Korean War, like all of that. Um, my teacher, I was not a huge fan of my teacher. I liked her. She wasn't, her teaching style didn't jive with me, and it really just like went downhill for me there. But yeah, it is. So I don't know. It's such a weird thing.
I agree. And to tie, like I said, I would do this to tie this back to Twin Peaks very quickly, and then we'll end the episode. But this is important. I promise you, this is actually important. So, when you take all of Twin Peaks as a whole, it is a series that talks about some like deep, dark shit. Not even getting into the weird stuff it gets into with like demons and what is heaven and hell and all this other stuff. All of it is metaphor, and it all becomes this weird kind of structural metaphor for like the dumb, deep, dark shit that people do to each other, and how do you actually structure that and talk about it. And like sometimes it's easier to talk about things like killing and rape if you're talking about things like demons and black lodges and white lodges and doppelgangers, and things like creamed corn becomes weirdly important in that. And because you start creating metaphors on top of metaphors on top of metaphors so that you can then frame like trauma and in like I said, killing and all this other stuff in like these weird ways, because that's the way to talk about it in film and TV
Mm-hmm.
and all this other stuff. And so like that's why every time movies come out, I try to think about like what they're actually saying as opposed to just like what's on the screen. And that's also why I'm an English major and not just like sitting down and watching movies. And it's made watching things hard. That's why I still don't know if I'm going to watch the Joker movie, because I still don't know what that movie's trying to say to people.
Mm.
So like, yeah, you're right in that like we use movies and stuff to make things easier to talk about. And I think that's just how I view things these days, and especially like the last few months as I've been like rewiring my brain all this Twin Peaks shit
Mm-hmm.
is like, and David Lynch entirely, like I think like with Eraserhead, he's trying to look at things in a different perspective of like this is what your brain actually goes through versus what's actually in front of you kind of thing. So yeah,
I
I
also
just like I just sometimes it's just easier to look at certain things if you just reframe it in a fucking weird way.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, there are definitely movies out there that just don't have any of that.
Yes, and those are also good. Like sometimes it's good to just be like, this movie wasn't trying to do that shit,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just sit down and watch it. So I Sleepaway Camp, a terrible movie. Friday the 13th, a movie that I don't think is trying to say anything beyond, isn't it? Like look at these people, look at Kevin Bacon die in this weird way.
Yeah.
Like those are important sometimes, and I try to take those away. But like sometimes I just need like I like watching a thing that makes my brain do that. I watched the Steven Universe movie at work yesterday.
Is that out? Oh,
The
I
Steven
didn't know
Universe
that.
movie premiered last night, and I have not seen that whole series. I have watched the first half of that first season multiple times, but I've never like sat down and just watched it all the way through.
I want to.
I watched that movie half paying attention at work, and it was fantastic. But it was also a movie that's like actually a thing that I would sit down and watch multiple times and be like, oh, they're saying this or that about like friendship and family and trauma and bad things too. Like that's why I think that in like Adventure Time and these other shows end up hitting harder than like the dumb thing that comes out for like a season and a half and disappears, because like they're speaking on a different level, but they're doing it through these weird metaphorical shit that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's our show, everybody.
I don't even...
I don't know what we were planning on talking about this week, but it was not
I was gonna talk about
trauma.
I was gonna talk about Pokemon Master.
You know what? Oh, I forgot you started playing that because So here's the thing. Next week is gonna be dumb. Next week we're gonna talk about
It's gonna be
Pokemon,
great.
and we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about Control some more. I'm sure. I don't know. More stuff will come up. I will talk more about Twin Peaks because I spent money on it and I need to justify it at this point.
I'll probably talk about Hilda finally.
There we go.
I want to talk about Hilda.
I'm going to, you know what? Here's my guarantee. First off, I'll finish Hilda. Secondly, I'm going to finish at least the first season of Steven Universe and Adventure Time by next week.
Jesus, I don't want to make the same promise.
No. You don't have to do anything. I just want to talk about stuff that isn't. I mean, I'm sure I'll find more stuff to think about with Adventure Time and Steven Universe. But like the thing with both of those shows is that they start off very like childish and episodic and goofy. So
you
like,
should watch Star vs. the Forces of Evil.
Because people who wrote for Gravity Falls wrote right for that. I know. I'm getting
Some
there.
people, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we'll have lighter, dumber stuff to talk about next week. I promise. I won't bring up Twin Peaks again. How about that? I promise I won't bring up Twin Peaks again. Maybe part 8. I don't know.
We just need something that we don't have to analyze.
Yes.
Because
I will bring up stuff that is not about analyzing things. It is just sitting down and watching and enjoying it. And then we'll go from there.
I mean, I still analyze Hilda, but like
not
as much.
My brain can't not analyze things.
I think you're just stuck in this realm right now where you're analyzing everything. Because
I've been stuck in that realm. No. Here's the thing. I've been stuck in that realm since the end of high school, and I've never gotten out of it. I could write pages about the Leprechaun films.
Here's the thing. I analyze shit too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's what I had to do in school. It's like
I'll tell you about
basically what our degrees are in is analyzing shit. Like
how's this? I'll watch more dumb. Every now and then, when I really need to like shut my brain off, I'll start cycling through Amazon to find the like weird early 2000s like sex comedies that are like, oh, what if like Road Trip had been like straight to DVDs type of things. I watched a bad Euro Trip knockoff. I'll talk about that maybe. Oh, there we go. That's the thing.
You should watch I Love You, Man, just 'cause.
No, I've seen I Love You, Man. No. I've seen that.
Oh.
But that's a good movie. I'm talking about watching bad movies because my brain needs to like shut off.
Yeah.
So like maybe we'll talk about those. About the worst things, because I've learned recently that Amazon, basically you can just put up a thing on Amazon and you can make it part of Amazon Prime like by your choice. It's got nothing to do with Amazon's choice. It's not like Netflix where they're like fighting for licenses. It's like Amazon's like, oh, you can get so much money if you put it on Prime, or you can make this much money if you only make it available to stream, or like only DVD off of those sales. So like Amazon's like, put up whatever dumb shit you want to put up. We don't give a shit.
God.
It's just a revenue split. It's nothing to do with licensing. They're just revenue splitting. So
this has been Say Report Jr.
We are going to stop episodes by rambling because we just keep doing it. You can find us on Twitter if you search Say Report Jr. and YouTube if you search Say Report Jr. and Spotify and all of your podcast apps and iTunes if you search Say Report Jr. You can search each of us individually. I am at Zerwisky.
I am at Dale's Brain.
And
with that,
we should get ice cream.
We should get ice cream.
We should definitely get ice cream.
And Liz, you should take it away.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Sarowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, We'll see you next time.